So we can take our legs up the wall, my often go-to place to start, just a nice way to start to come out of the day. A lot of times our days are a little more solar than lunar, in addition to the fact that, maybe we're actually, out and about in the day. Um, and we are in the waning moon. We are between eclipses right now. We just crossed over the equinox, but the moon is waning, and in this space between a lunar eclipse and a solar eclipse, definitely feeling that pull to empty out. And we talked about that last week, and this week is really more of just being in the flow, just being in the flow of letting go. And because there is a lot of intensity and there's a lot of things happening in the world, and solar eclipses tend to sometimes bring new beginnings and new shifts, and there's a few other things happening energetically right now that are big things. So the best thing we can do right now is to just surrender and go with the flow, because starting next week we may start to be pulled more towards some action. um, and in yoga, in the Yoga Sutras, when we talk about the yoga of change, right, Kriya Yoga, which we've talked about before, there's three sort of stages, or three sort of realms of that. We have the action, the fire, which is tapas, and then we have the reflection, the processing, the pause, which is svadhyaya, and then we have the surrender, which is Ishvara Pranidhana. And sometimes it's, we take an action, we reflect on it, we sort of, there's more of an order to it. But this new moon coming in is a big tapas, big tapaha. Um, there will be some actions coming up, so it's almost feeling like there's a surrender first, and then we sort of see what actions are revealed, and we start to work with that. So that's been something coming to me a lot. Um, that will be tuning into, especially those of you who do my monthly nidra. That'll be part of this next nidra. But for tonight, for our moon flow practice, we are in that space of surrender. And so for me, taking my legs up the wall, up the bed, up the chair is kind of always a signal to my system that I am kind of letting go. I am taking a break. We've talked about, as far as the nervous system goes, when our legs are up, our minds can usually deduce that we're not being chased by a predator, so we're probably okay to start to slow down. And so hopefully you found a comfortable position, and you can let your body just drop into the earth. So the eclipse we had, the total lunar eclipse we had a little over a week-ish ago, week and a half ago, was in the earth element. The eclipse coming this weekend is in the fire element. So earth and fire. And now as we move into this week, we have predominantly a water moon, a water energy, the energy of the last new moon, water. So we are sort of dissolving and cleansing and melting between this earth and fire energy, and giving ourselves just the opportunity to just let go. And I know we talked about that last week, but this has been a big energetic month, and that continues to be the guidance, the celestial guidance during this waning cycle. The waning cycle is the exhale. So this is the place where we let go, but more so right now than other times. So as your body is settled, you can take a deep breath in through your nose, maybe allow your belly to expand, and then open your mouth with a sigh or a sound, and just let go. And do that a couple times. Slow, buoyant breath in, big, audible exhale out. Maybe you relax your head a little bit side to side, or wiggle your fingers and your toes. See if your body can let go a little more as you take those breaths. Just letting each of these initial breaths bring us into the body, into the space, into the here and now, into the exhale. And can you start to sense the exhale a little bit more? Maybe now breathing in and out through the nose. And letting the exhale get a little bit longer. If your mind is distracted tonight, you can count the inhale and count the exhale and see if the exhale can be at least a beat longer. So if you inhale for 3, can you exhale for 4 at least, right? Or extend that out. And sometimes counting the breath, especially as we lengthen the exhale, is a great way to calm the mind, get the mind out of thinking and doing into this space of being and releasing, which is the essence of the waning moon, the releasing, the waxing moon we are receiving, the waning moon we are releasing, and especially in this space between eclipses. Just give yourself some time here in your supported inversion, in your exhale. Maybe counting out the breath as we lengthen the breath out, lengthen the letting go, the surrender. You might observe what it feels like for you to extend that exhale. Some of us might find we have an easier time making the inhale bigger or holding the breath. Sometimes it's hard to let go, even just in our breathing pattern. But this is a good place to start. Start letting that exhale go a little bit more, a little bit longer, signaling to the body that release, that let go, that surrender. Soft eyes, soft mouth. Letting everything just settle back. Your face gets soft. Your chest and belly. The hands and the feet. Everything softens around the exhale. What is it like to surrender and go with the flow? We hear that, right? Oh, I'll just go with the flow or just follow the flow. But sometimes it can be hard, especially if we're in that thinking, doing space. Going with the flow really is more of a receptive quality. We're not trying to change the tide. We're not trying to force. It's like when you can just float on the waves, right? Without trying to swim against it. How often do we get to do that really? Like, how often do we just feel like I'm just going with the flow? Like we're being carried by the current in whatever direction it's moving. How often do we get to do that? How often do we actually just surrender to the flow? And that's not intended to be a statement of judgment or criticism. It's just an observation. In this moment, in this practice, what is it like if we just allow ourselves to surrender to the flow? And right now, the flow is the breath. The flow is letting the body restore. Flow is just the pulse of our heart. Maybe just consider that sensation, that actual physical sensation of surrendering to the flow. That is not something that is really my nature. I'm not a huge surrender person. I like to create the flow and go with that. And, I was just talking to someone about how, like, I like riding bikes and I like going uphill. I like riding the bike up the hill. I like the challenge. I like the exercise. I don't like going down the hill. And I remember I was on Maui with some friends a few years ago, and we signed up to do this bike ride. And they basically took us in this bus to the top of the mountain, one of the mountains in Maui, and with these bikes that like had no brakes. And it was just the whole ride was just this downhill down the mountain. I remember thinking I had never had less fun in my life because I didn't like that. Like I actually like going up the hill. I don't like going down the hill. And this is the reason 20 years ago I started teaching lunar practices and restorative practices. It is not my nature to do some of these things. Even after all these years, I'm much more comfortable in the force than I am in the flow. I'm much more comfortable in the tapas, in the fiery action, than I am in the Ishvara Pranidhana. I do okay in the reflection. I do okay in the pause. I do okay in the meditation because that's still sort of something for me to do. But it is very hard to just feel like I'm doing nothing and sort of letting myself be carried. And so the energy we're in right now, if you are like me at all, and maybe you're not, maybe you're like, yeah, actually, I love just letting go and going with the flow and surrender and not trying to control. Um, those are qualities I've been working on for a long time. But it's important to practice both. If you're someone who is all about flow, sometimes it is good to practice force, right? And that's some of that sthira sukha as well, and vice versa. And so the energy we're in can be really uncomfortable if you are someone who likes to be, to some degree, in control as much as you think you can be, right? And that's the cosmic joke here. That is the celestial joke, is we're not in control of anything but our responses, and half the time we can't control those anyway. But again, riding the bike up the hill, walking up the hill, I know what that's like. I like that feeling. And then going down the hill, I don't like that feeling, but I practice it. I practice going down the hill and each time using less and less brake or holding less tightly to the handlebars or trying to keep my breath moving. I know people that I remember one of my friends I was with in Maui, she just had the best time just flying down that mountain, just like pure joy, pure happiness, just so we can work on that. We can work on that. So right now, is it work for you to surrender to the flow, or is this your natural space? And the challenge for you might be next week when we are asked to be more in that fiery tapas coming out of that new moon. So for just a couple more minutes, just letting yourself observe what it's like to be in a space like this. This is really that space of just kind of letting ourselves fall down the hill. And it's not quite time to start to climb. It's not quite time for us to take our actions. We are just floating on the current or riding down the hill, or any metaphor that sort of makes more sense for you of how you practice that kind of surrender, that kind of floating and flowing. Let yourself just take a few more breaths here. Long exhale. Big breath in, open mouth with the sound of a sigh. You can gather yourself into a soft little ball for a moment. Just gentle rocks. Rock your head. Little Apanasana here. Giving yourself a little hug, a little rock, a little massage to the low back. And then for a couple of moments, we can stretch the arms and the legs up, and you might just let them hang here in that dead bug position. Or you can do a little jitterbug and shake them out. But even that, not too much force. They are going to be more in that flow tonight, that surrendered flow. So even that, just a little movement. Let things move around. At any point, you can just be still or hug the knees in. Just supporting the lymphatic system here. Take another breath. And exhale, hug the knees in if they're not there. Roll your head right and left. And then you can roll to one side, maybe the left side, that lunar side, curling in. Curl into the exhale. And then if it's comfortable for you to come up and right into a child's pose, you can do that. Otherwise, you can lay on your belly and just lay on your belly, or you can stay on your back and hug your knees, into your chest. If you want, you can even grab a bolster or block or pillows here and just fold over into a surrendered child's pose. Head can turn to one side or forehead down. Or like I said, just stay on your back, knees to chest, or rest on your belly. Again, head down or head to one side. Child's pose, you can pad the knees and like I said, use support as you stretch back into your hips. You can add any gentle movement here, rock the hips, roll the forehead out. Otherwise, just breathe back into the exhale. My friends who want to be a little more just restorative tonight, we talked about having a chill practice tonight, that surrendered flow. Just stay here. Otherwise, if you want to make this into a little bit more of a flow, you can do a cat cow into that child's pose. You can slowly roll up into cow and then cat and then push back into child's pose. Maybe take a full breath there, and then again, you can add a little more movement. And if you're not comfortable in child's pose, but you want to do the spinal flow, you can come to sit and just move through cat cow, or listen to your body. Part of that surrender to the flow is your flow may be different from mine. And what that means for you to surrender to the body's flow, you got to feel into that. There's not a right or wrong or good or bad. It's just if the body wants to move, how the body wants to move. Staying connected to the exhale. You might do a couple rounds and then just rest, or the movements might feel good and you want to maybe build on, put a down dog in there, or listen to your body. Sometimes we feel super exhausted and then we get to the mat and suddenly there's a surge of energy. And if you want to ride that current, that's all part of it. Don't force yourself to, relax if every part of your body wants to move around. And that's that, interesting between force and flow. It's like if you're forcing yourself to stay still, that's not being in the flow. right? So the flow is basically what's sort of happening easily, effortlessly. What comes easier for you right now? Deep breath in. Open mouth. Exhale with sound. And then roll yourself up for a moment. So if you're in child's pose and you can comfortably sit on the heels, you can just do that. Or if you just want to take a seat, just sitting for a moment, place a hand to heart, a hand to belly, just grounding. We'll tone our lunar mantra as we bow, as we surrender to this waning moon carrying us to this incoming eclipse. As we surrender, right? Surrender to this waning moon. We'll chant Om Chandraya Swaha. So Swaha is more about surrender. Namaha is the bowing. So when we swaha, there's sort of more of a quality of like surrendering to it. So Om Chandraya Swaha. And you can just listen or you can hum or join in with me. Deep breath in. Om Chandraya Swaha. And just release your hands for a moment and just gently roll your head side to side, just little side to side. Soft jaw, soft face, and again, just be mindful about your seats. If you're in a position that you have to move, listen to your body. Just gentle rolling the head side to side. If it feels good, you can move it more into a half moon shape or just roll side to side. Soft eyes and face. Where can you find more surrender in your body? Letting go of tension, letting go of force. Let your head pause at the center of your chest. Just stretch out the back of the neck. And then roll your shoulders one way and the other. And then draw the shoulders down, just give yourself a little shake. So if you have a bolster, go ahead and grab it. If you don't have a bolster, you can grab a pillow. You can stack up some blocks. We're going to take a restorative twist. So what this looks like is you would have your bolster or a folded blanket or pillow out in front of you, and you're going to bring the right thigh forward, and you can stack the knees or slide the left leg behind you. And then sit up really tall and turn your body towards the bolster. So we're twisting towards the right. And if you don't want to use the bolster, you can stay upright and just take your left hand to your right knee and the right hand behind you. And you can do this twist seated. It's a lot more surrendered when you fold over something. And you can fold on down. Your head can turn either towards the knees or away from the knees. Very, very gentle twist. Twists are clarifying, releasing, and this is a very gentle one, especially if you're using the props. And then I want to invite you to come back to that exhale. So if you want to count the breath so that you can ensure the exhale is a little bit longer, you can come back to that, or just focus on that exhale, helping us surrender here. Take a deep breath in through the nose. And big sigh or sound out the mouth. Let it go. See if you can let go just a little bit more for one more breath. And then on the next inhale, we'll start to walk up, and I don't want you to change anything about the lower body. As you come up, lengthen up, take the left hand to the left shin, and then you can reach the right arm up and overhead or place it behind the head, or it can hook behind the back. And you can also just stretch the left arm out there to the left and just breathe into the side body. Soften the jaw. And then lengthen up, and then you should be facing your right shin. So if your knees are stacked, just slide the left leg behind you, and then you should be facing your right shin. And you'll lengthen up and start to walk forward towards the right shin. So you're going to feel the right outer hip. You can move your bolster or blocks or whatever you were using and in front of the right shin. And this is deer pose. So this is a hip opener. It can be a little bit of a more gentle hip opener than say like a pigeon pose, but it can have some pretty good sensation in that outer hip. And it might be nice, like I said, sometimes for me, like bringing the blocks and the bolster just allows more of that surrender, because my nature is to sort of stay engaged, right? But when I put that prop in front of me, I have something kind of to let go it too, right? And then I can practice a little bit more that letting go. Sometimes it takes out a little bit of the stretch, right? Because there's not as much force, but that's okay. And then just settling back into the exhale. Deep breath in. Exhale it out. Slowly walk it up. And then just for a few breaths, bring your hands behind you. And just take a couple breaths here. Just gentle stretch to the chest. Sometimes you'll feel the left quad sort of activate a little bit when you bring your hands back behind you in this position, depending on the quad. And then go ahead and bring it up. So we're going to switch sides. But before we switch sides, you might want to come back to that child's pose or that little child's pose flow, or maybe, you want to do a little bit more movement between sides. So you can choose, right? If you want to keep more of that restorative surrender, that very gentle flow. Or if you want to go back through cat cow and or out of down dog or any other movement. Turn a little more light before we go to the other side. And just listen. Maybe your body wants more stillness. Maybe it's ready for a little more movement. And then when you're ready, we'll shift towards the setup for the left side. So if you were using props, you'll kind of bring that towards the left. Left thigh comes forward first. So here, if you want to stack the knees for the twist, that's totally fine. Or the right leg can come behind. That's going to start to prep the hip. The prop is in front of the left thigh. Lengthen and then twist over the bolster or the pillows. Or again, you can stay upright for Bharavajasana here. Left hand outside the left hip, right hand to the left thigh. Or bring it on down for that supported pose. And back to the exhale. Surrender flow. This particular sequence is one of my favorite yin flows, especially for water energy, because we're getting into the hips, we're getting that twist. Great kidney poses as well, which in Chinese medicine is the water energy. Deep breath in. Exhale with sound. And let go for one more breath. And then on your inhale, walk it up. You don't need to change the legs yet. We're going to take the right hand to the right shin or walk that right hand to the right. The left arm can come up and overhead or behind the head or behind the low back on the left side, just to breathe into the side body. And then bring it up. And we're facing the left shin. So adjust your legs if you need to, or if you want to move your props. So we're facing the left shin, lifting the spine, and then as you're ready, start walking yourself forward. So my left side is always tighter than my right. So on the other side, like this is a much more gentle pose. On this side, I'm like, oh yeah, I definitely feel that left hip more. So listen to your body. Find a place you can breathe. It can be helpful to have those props to rest your hands or your head on. And then come back into that exhalation. Deep breath in. Open mouth. Exhale. As you're ready, walk it up. And just let your hands come behind you, however that's comfortable. The more they come behind you, the more you might feel into that right quad. It's okay if not. Just also just a little counter stretch for the upper back. And then bring yourself up and very gently open the legs out wide for Upavishta, so wide legs. Legs open wide up on the sit bones. And just shake out the legs a little bit, rock the legs out a little bit. And then inhale, lift. And as you exhale, you can start to walk out. You can use support under your forearms or your forehead. And just take a few breaths here. Just one more stretch for the hips and the back. And that forward fold, very powerful, like I said, for the kidneys, for turning inward, for letting go. Deep breath in and out. Slowly bring it up. Draw the legs in. Again, give yourself a little hug or move in any way that feels good. And listen to your body. If you want to keep moving a little bit longer, you can. We are going to come into a Supta Baddha Konasana for our relaxation. So if you've got that bolster handy, you can lay it down flat. It can also be nice to put a block underneath it at the low or the middle position, just to make it less of a intense heart opener. But then you do want to have something for your thighs, your hips. So pillows, blankets, towels, soles of the feet together, sitting up against the bolster, the pillows, putting support underneath the thighs, and then rolling yourself back. And adding any other goodies here that you might like. So an eye pillow is really nice and it supports our melatonin levels, covering the body for some light compression for not only warmth, but also just for the nervous system response of having that light covering. Can turn off the lights, dim the lights, just make this comfortable. I want to give us a good 10 minutes here to just let our bodies soak in this very slow flow, surrender, waning moon practice tonight, preparing us for this incoming fiery eclipse and the fire lunar cycle that we're entering into. So do whatever feels good here. To wiggle around, to get symmetrical, cozy. And then I recommend revisiting just that deep breath. Inhale through the nose, exhale out the mouth. Each exhale, letting go of tension, letting go of any force. And then settling into that, breathing in and out through the nose. And if the mind is still going, then come back to counting out the breath and letting the exhale extend through breath. Otherwise, can you give yourself just that permission to imagine yourself floating on the current or floating down the hill, right? Like whatever for you sort of is a less panicky sensation. So I do a little bit better just, imagining laying back in a float or something in the water rather than, going down the mountain. But similar quality. You're not kind of in control of the force, right? That's to me the opposite of flow and force, right? Force and flow is that when you're in the flow, you're not forcing. You're not the one forcing the movement. And so what is that like for you? Is there a way that you can soften into that? Even if just for 10 minutes. Can you let the back of your body soften? And the front of your body soften. Let the right side of the body soften. And the left side of the body soften. Your lower body softening. Your upper body softening. Your eyes soften. Your mouth softens. Your chest and your belly soften. Your hands and your feet soften. The whole body softens and surrenders. Whole body surrenders into the effortless flow of breath. The effortless release of the exhale. The effortless draw of the waning moon. Surrendering into the flow.
Just notice the space you're in, the quality of your breath, your body. And even if it's just for a minute over the next few days as we move towards this weekend's eclipse, can you give yourself just a few moments of this quality, this surrender, this flow? Maybe it's lying in bed right before you go to sleep or wake up in the morning. Maybe you can go float in the water or safely, flow down a hill. Something where you really just get that sense of letting go of control, letting go of force, just for a little bit. And you are welcome to stay here as long as you want. And if it is time to transition, you can begin to deepen the breath. Let the breath move back into the body. You can gently let your head shift side to side or wiggle your fingers and your toes. If the soles of the feet are together, you can extend your legs or bend your knees, maybe letting the knees rock side to side or wiggling the feet. You can start to roll to one side or stretch the body, or depending on how much support you have, it might be easier to just roll yourself up. Let your eyes stay soft as a hand comes to heart and a hand to belly. Maybe a gentle rock or movement here as we seal the practice with the sacred sound of Om 3 times. First Om, honoring yourself. Your second Om to our loved ones and to those suffering. And that final Om in deep gratitude for our Mother Earth and our Grandmother Moon. And you can just listen or hum or tone another sound or join on with me. Inhale. Draw your hands to heart, rub your palms, inhale, exhale, left hand to the left, palm up, right hand to the right, palm down, as though we're sitting in our virtual moon circle, taking a final breath in. Inhale, fill. Exhale out the mouth, hands to the earth, and we bow. Om Chandraya Swaha. We surrender to this waning moon. Many blessings for a week of surrender and release, and see you soon. Thank you.